and welcome to our virtual annual discipline-specific activity for the 2021-22 school year. For those of you who do not know me, I am Kaylee Malsey, the Associate Dean of School Partnerships. Thank you for participating in our ACE annual discipline-specific activity. As the pandemic continues to influence our yearly activities, we are pleased that we are able to still provide you with an opportunity to complete our NACEP required activities in a platform where you can make a connection to your liaison. Throughout the fall, ACE liaisons scheduled live Zoom sessions to discuss specific topics related to the disciplines in which you teach. While we understand that it is not always possible for you to attend the live sessions, these sessions were recorded so you can get the benefit of the event with the discussion from those who attended. Please enjoy the recording of your annual discipline-specific activity. We hope next year we will be able to welcome you back to our campus for an in-person event. Thank you for your continued hard work in making this program available to students.
So when there's the one lab we do in Chem was 106 where we do that density lab with the glass and nail. So one thing I've got to doing is, I make use of the Excel for the graphing. When I taught at Lock Haven, they did like a paper lab where they had the kids, do a graph by hand, the X and a Y and all that. And the kids were not very good at it as far as, trying to get their spacings and all that. And all. So I always tried to get them to go to Excel, but they would never do it. So I don't know, do you use it at all on any of your stuff?
Most of our students have Chromebooks now, so I've adapted to teaching them to graph in Google Sheets instead, but same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, that I'm unfamiliar with. So
it's pretty similar. Once you kind of look into it, there's not that much of a difference.
Okay. Well, let me just go.
I prefer Excel, but that's just not an option.
That's not an option, right? Well, at least they all have the same sheet or the same computer. So that way, when you do teach them something, it's, it's universal, but, students with usually they have their own computer if I'm going to do something with the computer. So having different versions of Excel, it's always interesting. Like, where do you find, like, I know what I want them to do, but some versions are very different as far as where the instructions don't match up. So you're always pulling your hair out. So I'll just go through what I do, and I guess it'll be very similar to what you do. So let me just go ahead and find where my Excel sheet is so I could share it. Why don't I see this anywhere? There we go. So when you do it in the Chromebooks, I know so Excel just wants the data, right? Doesn't want any units or anything like that. So that's always fun when I tell the students, oh, you just got to put in the numbers. You don't put in any units, because all I do is yell at them for not putting units on their numbers.
Same thing with Google Sheets. I have them, instead of doing X, Y, I have them label what the axes are, and they can put the units there, because then when they do the graph, it will automatically label the axes with the unit.
Oh, I haven't seen, so it'll automatically label that, huh? I think I haven't seen it like in Excel. You have to go in and do that. So does it automatically pick up the X and Y axis?
Well, I always teach them the X has to be on the left side, the Y on the right side. As long as you have your columns that way, then when you drop and drag and start the graph itself, generally it will pre-populate with that title and that unit, as long as you have it properly labeled.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the label things, but yeah. So when you're doing Excel, right, the first column of data, it picks it up as the X. In the second column, it picks it up as the Y.
Correct. Yeah. Same
Yeah.
for Google Sheets.
So I like to use then the scatter plot. So, if you go to wherever you go to, but Excel, typically insert, and then you go to your charts. So I like to use the scatter as far as, because obviously, try to teach them, they're not supposed to be connecting the dots or any of that good stuff. And then the one nice thing I like about this is then, obviously, trying to connect it by hand. So the computer will do it for you. So I like to add the trend line, right? So at least in Excel, I think if you highlight one of those data points, they all light up. And then when you right click, you can go down to your trend line. And so then so it adds the trend line. So, go through like how at this point, then the data points aren't useful to you, right? It's the line that becomes what you're looking at. But what I like then is the fact that you can display then the equation of the straight line on the graph. And then you could also display there's this R value. And then move that around. So then, I try to explain to them how to just the R value being, again, closest to 1 is the winner, right? That's the best linear data. And then there they have their equation. So at least in the lab we do, then, hey, then they don't, the slope, there's your density, right? There's your mass over volume. And you don't have to go through all the, trying to figure out what's your Y minus your Y over your X minus your X. And they have that there. So usually when we do this lab, I walk around and look at their graphs and sign off on them as they're doing them and get I guess a little bit lazy. I don't go through, trying to get them to label their axis and or print anything out, because we don't really, in the lab, we don't have the printer. So I typically skip that part, but try to explain to them all that good stuff. But this was, to me, this was, when I learned how to do this, this was like, this was so great. Because I remember back when I was in college, before all this fun technology stuff, we had a physical chemistry teacher who actually wrote a program to do a graph like this.
Oh my.
Yeah, he had, we had one of those old dot little printers on that. And we thought that was the greatest thing since, we don't have to do a hand graph anymore. So that's one of those stories like, when I was your kid, right? I try to explain to the students.
I'm always still surprised that I'm the first person teaching them how to graph using, well, it used to be Excel, now Google Sheets.
Yes.
I would think they would learn that before they get to me, but I seem to be the first person really kind of going through.
And that's kind of why I kind of picked this, because in my, in my labs or in my classes, I'm lucky if I have 1 or 2 students that have even used Excel, and I'm sitting there like thinking like, what do you high schoolers do? Right. I just thought that would be something that was, pretty second nature. Right. But I have some students that just literally, you have to walk them through every little step on Excel, and some have, again, very few of them really are comfortable using it. I mean, some have used it before, so they could fumble around pretty quickly, but most of them are like the first time. And I'm like, okay, because you're, other than an academic, you're ever rarely going to do a hand graph anymore. Like, even if you're doing a paper or something like that, you have the technology, so you might as well use it. I guess it's kind of like the calculators anymore. Just use the technology. So then sometimes, I usually don't get into it, but because, but I do show them how you could possibly, do you show them how to do like another series on the same graph?
We don't do that quite as often.
because that's, yeah, something I haven't done too often, but it's kind of neat, right? So
Yeah,
at least
it is.
in Excel, let me just put in some more numbers here. 3, 8. Yeah, because I was just kind of re-looking at it today. And sometimes it gets a little hard in lab into like, so I'll just have them do one graph at a time and walk around and sign off on it. But I just figured out, so, you know, if you somewhere on the graph, click it, so this data highlights, and then pretty sweet, because all you got to do then is expand the box. Where are we here? So if you expand the box, and boom, it puts in the next set of data points, and then you go through the whole thing. That trend line. So I find that to be so sweet. So different colors. So again, this was the first year I actually had a student that, you know, was able to do it all on his own. And I was like, oh, wow, what school did you go to? But now I'll be aware that a lot of, you know, maybe they've been using Chromebooks and not like Dell computers, because our lab computers are Dell. If they don't have most of my students bring in, you know, I'll bring in, they won't bring in a Chromebook. They'll bring in like a Dell computer or something.
Mhm. Yeah, these are all, you know, school issued Chromebooks is the reason they're all the same. So
Yeah, that makes it nice.
Same way for our school. We all have Chromebooks.
Yeah. So yeah, I always thought that, so to me, it was so exciting when we could do this like that. And well, I was just gonna have, what was I gonna say? Oh, and I don't know. I remember, well, for a while, you know, when you teach the equation of a straight line, do your math teachers teach it as y equals mx plus b? Because I remember before I got into the college thing, I was subbing and I was in a class and I was all excited because they were doing this, and I was using y equals mx plus b, and the students were kind of like baffled because they were different variables. I'm like, so
I know for
I
sure
always
my
talk about
school,
this way. Is that the way you guys talk about it?
Yes.
well,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
definitely. And I can for sure say they start in 8th grade learn it that way, because my son is in 8th grade this year and he's working on that specific equation a lot the last few weeks.
Good. Well, I don't feel bad then, because that's how I explain it and talk about it.
Yep.
And they're like, that's why I always tell them. I said, well, if my wife ever lets me get a tattoo, this is one of the tattoos I'm going to get. One of the it's the science. I'm going to get y equals mx plus b across my back or something.
Oh, wow.
And then one of the other tattoos would be PV equals nRT. I tell them, you know, when I'm doing the gasoline, that's the other one. You know? I always try and bring up, well, I forget that one modern day singer that, you know, now the trend is to put all that stuff on their face. I said, yeah, man, just think you could have PV equals nRT across your face, right? Or you could have Vesper. I said, there's another good one, right? So when you're another great call sign, if you go on to be a fighter pilot, you could have the call sign being Vesper. I said, that would be my call sign. So good. So you guys are doing all that. So hopefully if I ever see your students, I'll say, didn't you do this? But surprisingly, like you said, it's surprising they don't do a lot of this in there, but whoops. But I think it's useful, like I said, so I use it whenever I can in the labs, as far as, you know, analyzing data, try and get them to see that. So that's really all I had. Nice, short and sweet. It was good to get your feedback about what you use it in the classroom. So that's good. Questions or anything? You guys use any of the vernier equipment in your labs? Do you have any of that?
I don't have Vernier. I do have some Pasco.
Okay. Do you like gas pressures?
Yes, I have to. It's been a couple years now, obviously, with everything that's been going on since I've used it. In the meantime, I've gotten some new sensors because now it's all like Bluetooth, and so I have to look at that and all the connectivity with their laptops before I can be assured that I can use it this year. But
Mhm.
I'm hoping to, because all my old got taken away.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I have the new, and I'm sure I will be able to use it, but I have to figure out the connectivity. It's not that it's hard to figure out, but it's not wanting to connect with their Chromebooks so easily.
Well, they tell
So,
you it's easy, but it never is. You know, that's, oh,
right.
you just download this. Yeah, right. That's yeah, it's gonna be that easy. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like last year the gas lab I didn't do. I think I found a nice program online that kind of went through some of the stuff, and I did that only because sometimes with the gas equipment, two students worked a lot better, like trying to manipulate the equipment. So yeah, I didn't even do anything hands-on last year with the gas laws, but doing it this year with the one experiment we run. Yeah, because I have the vernier, the gas pressure. We still have the computer interfaces, so luckily they haven't updated any of that. So haven't gone to Bluetooth or anything of that nature yet. But trying to optimize it because the way the lab is set up, we're getting good pressure readings and trying to go to a smaller test tube, but still having to top popping off, and I'm like, so still so maybe do something with that next year if I could figure out a good way to keep everything in the so that's good. Well, I thank you for showing up for this fun little evening.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. Actually, the virtual, in many ways, it's not as nice as being in person, but for me, that works so well. I've never been able to drive out to do the in person with
Uh-huh.
all the activities with my children. So this actually works quite nicely for me to actually
Yes.
be able to join.
Well, that's one thing. I mean, I've gotten very used to this. So even when we went back to in-person lectures, and even this year starting, after the first day, everybody showed up, but then I gave my students the option of being in person or being, Zooming the lecture class. Now, obviously the lab.
Sure.
And for me, they had to show up for the lab, so I wasn't. So I'm going to see them.
Right.
So I have usually about 50-50 is about half the class I'll show up and half the class will be online. And there's pretty good participant. Well, I mean, they show up and I tell them, well, again, being in college, I tell them, hey, you can log on and walk away. It's not I do not try and make sure you're paying attention. I said, you're in college. I said, it's not high school. So I'm a little different that way. I'm like, if you can handle this stuff and not pay attention, more power to you. But it's worked out because I've had students, this year, obviously, oh, I'm positive I can't show up. And all right, they got to miss lab, but at least, they can Zoom the lecture. And I also record the lecture and post it. So even if they can't do both, I don't feel bad anymore. Like if a student didn't show up for a lecture or two, I'd feel like, just telling them, oh, you got to read the notes to catch up was not very good. So at least now, so I've gotten pretty comfortable doing it. And I don't mind doing it now. And yeah, even school meetings. So like Tuesday, I can have virtual office hours, so I don't have to go into school. So it's like, yeah, let's do the Zoom meetings, man. I don't.
There are certainly some positive. I mean, nobody wants to be remote for everything all the time, but there's some positive aspects coming out of this.
It was much easier to contact students for advising. I mean, they were much more into like setting up a 15-minute, 20-minute Zoom meeting rather than trying to meet me in my, whenever I had office hours, and so it worked out good that way. So that's good. All right. Well, I hope your rest of the year goes well. If you ever have any questions, give an email. And enjoy the rest of the evening. And I thank you for showing up. So I'll just send this in to Kaylee and let her know we had a wonderful old time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Bye now.
Thank you. Have a
Bye-bye.
nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.